Welcome to the Ultimate Tolkien Tournament. This is Middle-earth Madness. Tolkien friends, welcome back to the Third Age Throwdown. Tonight we are doing the last night of the second round of fights. So we've already had our play-in round, and now tonight we will finish up our second round to set up the Sweet 16, or as we like to say here in Middle-earth, the Silmaril 16, even better. So let's pull up the bracket and check out where we're at. Hopefully you guys had an opportunity to make a bracket. That is the new rollout that we are offering this spring and for all the tournaments this year. So if you didn't get a chance to make a bracket this time around, you will have a chance again, and it is highly encouraged. Go to, of course, middleearthmadness.com, the bracket page, bracket tracker page, and sign up. All right, let's see the... Oh, here we go. Yeah, so the bottom of the bracket, just 4 more fights. This is all that remains of the second round. So going back here, scrolling back up. These are all the fights that have already transpired. Oh, I forgot to populate these, but not going to give you a full recap. If you hadn't had a chance to go and check out all those fights, you can do that on our YouTube page. Go watch them, any of them on demand. They're all there. Tonight, however, we are starting off with Sauron against Théoden. Second, we will do Dane against Aragorn, and maybe the best match of the night. 2 pretty evenly matched characters there. Followed up by Elrond against Landroval, and then bringing up the rear is Imrahil against Círdan. So we're looking at a potential fight if it's all chalk. Again, chalk is the basketball word that means if your bracket, that used to be written on chalkboards, goes as predicted and the higher seeds win, we'd be looking at Sauron against Aragorn in the Sweet 16. Elrond against Círdan. So some elf-on-elf violence there. 2 ring bearers duking it out on the bottom. And then the Dark Lord against the future King of Gondor. So, might kind of make you root for some chalk tonight, although upsets are always possible here in the Chamber of Death. And I have a feeling that it won't be all chalk because in previous nights, we've had plenty of chalk. So, without further ado, let's see what our first fight is of the night, shall we? Drum roll, please. Oh, I already told you, so not much suspense here. It is Sauron against Théoden. So, should be a good one. Obviously, in any 11 versus 1 match, 11 seed Théoden, 1 seed Sauron. The Dark Lord is, of course, a heavy favorite here. So... yeah, there's really no way to get around that, right? He's the Dark Lord of Mordor. He forged the One Ring. He is the mightiest of the Maiar. Théoden, merely the aged king of Rohan. That said, like I said earlier, upsets not only can, but do regularly happen here in the Chamber of Death. So... obviously, most of you guys would take Sauron in this matchup. I'd be a little surprised if anyone took Théoden. Most people didn't take Théoden in the first round, I reckon. But, yeah, I'm just checking the brackets that I can see here. Yeah, no one... that's going to take some stones. Most people have Sauron in this one. Pretty safe bet. Let me go ahead and grab some images for you. Okay, so Sauron is here. as you can, I mean, he's the number one overall seed, best record in our regular season at 45-7. He slew Gandalf, he slew the Balrog, and Sauron, and Smaug. So he took down all the other number one seeds and probably most of the 2 seeds. He only lost 7 fights. He did weirdly lose 4 of his 7 against not tip-top guys. Boromir is a lower middle seed. Wahir, I think, is a 4. Treebeard, a 3 seed. Those are not bad losses. And then Elrond, also a 3 seed. So his worst loss, Faramir, who I think was a 8 or a 9, if memory serves. So, yeah, Theoden's got his work cut out for him in this one. I'll let you take a quick look at Theoden's stats, how they set up against Sauron. And meanwhile, I'm going to pull up a couple more images here. We need... Who do we need? We need Dane against Aragorn. Let me make sure I have those. Dane and Aragorn and Círdan and Imrahil. Círdan. Imrahil. We're going to call that good. All right. We are joined now by Chucky. How you doing, Chucky?
Hello. I am doing okay. Still in recovery.
Okay. So we'll take okay, considering the injuries.
Yeah. How's it going?
Not too bad tonight. We're starting off with Sauron against Theoden. Not much suspense to build up for this one, but you never know. I was trying to get the last... Who are we missing here? We got Imrahil. We've got... I still need... No, we've got Círdan. We got Dane. We need Aragorn. Why didn't Aragorn upload? One sec. Upload. All right, there we go. Cool, yeah, so as we were saying, Theoden only won 13 fights. He lost to Merry and Pippin and Ugluk and Gorbag. But in the first round of the tournament, he defeated Merry. Okay, so that was an 11 versus 12 fight. Not too impressive, right? But it's a dub, and it's about all we can say. I'm finding it tough to say too much for Theoden in this fight. What say you, Chucky? Any hope against Sauron?
No, I think I agree with you. Not much hope.
Not much hope. Only a fool's hope. All right, I'm going to plug this mouse in just in case it's going to die on me. Oh, man.
Hey, I'm propped up on the couch again, doing the best I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound a little quieter than you did before, but I can still hear you.
Okay.
Talk again. I think you're good now.
Yeah, testing.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, for you guys that don't know, Chucky broke his ankle, and I guess you heard today that you got like some ligament damage too.
Yeah.
So then you go in there and repair the ligaments, right? That's what the surgery's for.
And the bones. Yeah, multiple fractures, ligament damage, all the stuff.
Oh, gnarly, man. So sorry to hear that. That's just freaking brutal.
Yep. It's all right. I'll get through it.
I think Theoden can sympathize. I'm pretty sure he had some compound fractures when that horse fell on him, Snowmane.
Yeah, right.
Witch King scared the crap out of his horse, and he went down, and maybe both legs and the hip, too. That didn't look fun. So, without further ado, let's square off. I'm not going to say too much more about this one because I don't expect it to go too well. So, I'm going to leave it at that, and let's see if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'll say under, 12.5 rounds.
Yeah, sounds about right. Let us fight. All right. tonight, in the first fight of the last night of the second round, we have Théoden challenging Sauron. Is it going to be our first raging upset of the tournament?
I was just thinking it would be kind of a cool one.
It would. Our judges have said probably not. But hey, you never know. There were upsets last year. It's been pretty chalky this year. I feel like we're due for one. Let us see. First attack goes to Sauron, and right off the bat, heavily hewn with necromancy. Oh, I'm not showing the battle engine screen. Sorry, guys. I promise.
Yeah, I thought I was just delayed.
My bad. Let's get that up. Sorry, guys. So you can see at the top of the screen. I'm still not showing it. Golly. Wake up. Wake up, Maestro. There we go. We got it up. Yeah, so heavily hewn on that first attack. Let's see if Théoden can come back and do anything in this one. Or is it going to be a colossal beatdown? He attacks. Cannot engage with Herogrim, his blade. Sauron comes back. Hits wounds. And that is all. Théoden has been slain in 3 rounds. No upset in the Chamber of Death tonight, my friends.
Well.
Man. Well, Sauron asked and answered with that question. No upsets at his expense, at least not yet, right?
Sauron knows the flames are coming on and is trying to hurry.
There you go. Sauron would be a fan of the flames.
Yeah.
So Sauron advances to the Sweet 16, and that cues up our second fight of the night, which should, knock on wood, be a lot better. We got Dane going up against Aragorn. By the way, Chucky, opinion on the pronunciation, easy for me to say, the pronunciation of Dane Ironfoot's name. Is it Dain? Is it Dain? Or is it Dane?
Sorry, I moved my foot wrong and was like suffering for a second there, but
Ooh.
I always said Dane.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's probably wrong.
Yeah. I'm going with Dane. Well, it's such a habit now to just say Dane Ironfoot or Dain.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows on that one?
Yeah, that's a tough one. But yeah, so we get...
Tolkien had a little bit more linguistic explanations for a lot of the Elvish stuff.
Yeah.
Not so much that I remember on Dwarven, other than the runes themselves.
Yeah, I remember that one passage in the Silmarillion where it specifically says about the Naugrim that they prefer to learn other people's tongues instead of sharing their own. So,
yeah,
the dwarves not so good at the sharing, right? And so,
right.
Even with their language, they said, you know, the elves would rip on them for being people of uncouth dialects and stunted and ugly, a little and uncouth warlike people, right? Say the haughty, fancy elves, right? And the dwarves were like, well, then our tongue shall remain a secret from you, and we will just learn your tongue, and
right.
Then we will fight and see what you have to say about that. And it actually didn't go too well with the elves the one time they did fight. So, yeah, the dwarves, if you might remember from fans of the Silmarillion, they rolled up into Minigroth, slew Thingol. Melian was able to escape, later died of sorrow, and then they stole all the elven treasure, including the Nauglamir from Minigroth. And I mean, they didn't get very far before Baron's son Dior ransacked them when they were trying to get up into the mountains there in Osiriand with the help of a guy named Boromir, which became the namesake of the Steward's House of Gondor later. But the first Boromir was an elf, a green elf of Osiriand. And so they sort of ambush the dwarves and sort of get mild vengeance. And so Baron's kid was able to liberate the Silmaril on the Nauglamir that once his grandma Melian wore. So funny little story there. So yeah, Dane against Aragorn. I think Dane is a much lesser known character than, of course, I think Aragorn might be the most famous character, or at least top 3 in Tolkien lore. No need to say too much about him. But who was Dain Ironfoot? Well, he was one of the Longbeards who, you'll remember in the events of The Hobbit, really right before the events of The Hobbit, you had Smaug come down from the Withered Heath. I'll share my little map behind me here for a sec so you can see. See right up there, we got the Iron Hills. It doesn't actually go quite far enough north, but north of Mirkwood and kind of ranging up this way to north of Mount Doom is right there, you'll see, is, a kind of a wintry northern mountainy a heath is an Old English word for a wooded sort of wooded hills, like highlands. Highlands with woods are a heath, right? So it's where your heathens come from, your Vikings from the wooded highlands were called heathens, right? The Withered Heath is such a cool map title for a land, right? And so Smaug comes down and wrecks the Lonely Mountain, sacks Erebor, but he does not sack the Iron Hills right up here. So the Iron Hills are you can't call them a dwarven mansion, right? You don't think of them like Erebor, loaded with treasure, or like Khazad-dûm up here, right? The greatest dwarf kingdom ever. No. Iron Hills is like the Detroit of the dwarven kingdoms. They're building stuff there, but it's iron. It's working class, right? So you got your I think of them just like working class dwarves. They're not afraid to get ash in their face, and they're dirty and poor, and they're just mining iron and making steel out there. But multiple times in the lore, when they come out to fight, they bail out all the fancy royal dwarves in funny way. Well, in interesting ways. My take would be, therefore, that Dain is like the most pipe-hitting dwarf out there. Just about, right? You see it twice. He comes to the Battle of Azanul Bizarre. I can't zoom in on this, right? But Azanul Bizarre, right outside the gates of Moria there. A hell of a fight went down. One of the gnarliest fights in terms of casualties in all of Tolkien lore. This was in the War of the Dwarves against the Orcs that happened right before the events of The Hobbit as well. And man, it did not go well for either side, and the dwarves probably would have lost. Thorin earns his nickname fighting for, the royal house of Erebor, and his dad is slain. His grandfather makes it away with the last remaining dwarf ring, later to be caught and tortured by Sauron. They lose the last dwarf ring. But right at the turning of the tide of that battle of Azanul Bizarre, guess who shows up? Our boy Dain, with the gnarly working class dwarves of the Iron Hills. And he avenges his king, the king under the mountain, Thror, who was king at the time. I think he had already inherited the title from his dad. Fact check me on that one if you want. But Azog, the Defiler, had slain and beheaded the king under the mountain. Dain comes in, and he's the one, not Thorin, but Dain is the one who then decapitates Azog at the end of that fight and wins the Battle of Azanul Bizarre with the dwarves of the Iron Hills. That's one case. Second case, of course, is at the Battle of the Five Armies. He rides in there, not on a pig, but that was cool in the movies, I guess. I mean, his character was cool one way or the other in those movies, and he just rides in there, and it doesn't quite save the day. I mean, you have to say that the Eagles and Gandalf sort of helped save the day, but anyway, he actually gave the dwarves enough of an army such that they could at least stand for a while against the elves and the men before the orcs show up, right? So, Dain, arguably the most badass dwarf in the lore. What say you about that, Chucky? Too bold of a take?
Yeah, he's super awesome. Agree with you about his movie character being cool, but I don't know, almost a little cheesy. I don't really like the way Peter Jackson treats dwarves.
Yeah,
If that's
comic relief.
yeah, like Gimli and in the main trilogy just being a source of comic relief, and I don't know,
100%.
he has a few moments of badassery, but not enough, I don't think.
Yep.
Um so I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really like the way they do their armor and the way that they look and everything like that, but
Yeah, true.
just the the comic relief is a little bit heavy in my opinion in
I
these
totally
action.
agree. It was worse with Gimli, or as bad, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They did Gimli a little dirty. I mean, he was still cool, like, and to be fair, the movie did need some comic relief, but to the extent you can get it through hobbits, I preferred that. Like Merry and Pippin, use them all you want for comic relief because that's what they really were in the books too, mostly, right? At least through the
Yeah.
Fellowship of the Ring. Maybe not in the second two, but
Yeah.
Gimli was the least funny dude in that whole story, maybe. And then you use him as like, toss the dwarf. I was like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And they make them like I don't know, they made Gimli seem like not intelligent and yeah, in the books he's more like you described, like reserved, almost emo.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
pretty stoic, right? Just like,
just cold hearted.
mhm,
I mean, he lived underground. So,
mhm.
yeah, for the most part anyway. I don't know. So anyways, enough on that. Yeah, I really like Dane. Um and this should be a very interesting fight. I picked Aragorn to go, I think, all the way. So, yeah, this should be this should be one of his toughest.
Yeah, it'll be so. I mean, Dane did pretty good, 27 and 25. It's just okay, right? And that's obviously why he's a 6 seed, not a little higher. He lost some bad ones to Samwise, to well, just to Samwise. I mean, these others, Aomer, no, not too much shame in that. Although he should have won that probably. Legolas and Gimli, no shame in those. Um, but he beat Gandalf, Shelob, Elrond, the Watcher in the Water. So he can hang with tough dudes, including a 1 seed there in Gandalf.
Yeah.
Aragorn, on the other hand, oof. I mean, what do you say about Aragorn? He's a heavy hitter, although look at his record at 31 and 21. That's not elite. So, you know, he still got the bye, but I would say barely as a 4 seed, right? He
Yeah.
lost to Theoden, the Barrow White, Aomed, and Azog. Definitely a couple that he should have won there. I mean, he wins 9 out of 10 probably, but against Theoden, and Theoden found a way to get the better of him. He wins probably 7 out of 10 against the Barrow White, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 against Aomer, 6 out of 10 against Azog. So a mixed bag. He doesn't have also any elite wins except for maybe the Witch King. The Witch King's a 2 seed in this tournament. That's a quality win. But Quick Beam's a 4. Beorn, I think, is a 6. Shelob, a 5 or a 6, I forget. So, yeah, I mean, and then if you look at his stats, his best offensive stats, ferocity and striking. I mean, he has Anduril, so his striking is pretty damn good. He doesn't have great armor on defense, but he's got amazing valor and solid toughness, decent elusiveness. So look, I mean, you can argue it a little bit, but past a certain point, Aragorn as Strider, or even, you know, when he gains some fancier tools towards the end of the stories, doesn't have elite gear. You know, he has an elite bloodline and amazing fighting skill. And I think you see that sort of borne out in his stats compared to all these other characters. I don't want to understate it though. Like he is very good on offense. I mean, his worst stat is the magic at 50. And then if he's forced to use his bow, he's accurate with his bow. He doesn't miss at 80, but 61, depending on his opponent's armor. In this case, Dane has great armor. So his bow is not going to be, I can tell you right now, is not going to be very useful because it's Aragorn's piercing of 61 going up against Dane's deflection of 80, right? So we shall have to see. Chucky, give us your final thoughts on this one while I cue it up in the battle engine, and then we shall fight.
Well, I don't remember if I had the bracket going the way that these two lined up. Maybe I did. But anyways, I'm second guessing my Aragorn pick right now. I definitely can see Dane winning this.
Yeah. It'd be an upset, but not a huge upset. I think it's fair to say, right?
Yeah.
So green line is Aragorn, blue line is Dane. Some advantages for Dane, for sure. I'm looking mostly at defensive traits like armor and deflection, right? Much better than Aragorn on both of those. And better overall on defense. Aragorn's main advantages, you're going to be looking at spirit. Obviously, his defensive magical in quotes, air quotes, right? Your spirit is your defensive power that ends up being 1/3 of your ability to withstand damage in the damage phase. So he's going to have an advantage there. Accuracy, if they're forced to use their ranged weapons, this is saying they're going to stick with their preferred weapons 80%. You can see the number there, about 84% of the time. So, look, Dane's going to use his red axe of... I'm sorry. No, Dane has a warhammer? Or he has the red axe, I think. And then Aragorn's going to stick with Andúril. So, shall we fight?
Yep.
Let us fight! In the second fight of the last night of the second round of the Third Age Throwdown, we have Aragorn against Dane Ironfoot. Buckle your seatbelts, this ought to be a pretty good one. Knock on wood, because the first hit after I say that's going to be a death stroke. First attack goes to Aragorn with Andúril. Can't engage. Dane counters a hit, but no damage with the red axe of Erebor. Which, incidentally, he got that axe after he was king under the mountain. So, maybe we need to rename the weapon on this one. But right now, he's wielding a fell axe. Aragorn attacks, fails to engage. And they're dancing. Through 5 rounds, they're dancing back and forth. Oh, the first stroke and first blood goes to Dane with the red axe. Aragorn counters, can't engage. Boy, the dwarf proving to be a little bit wily so far, elusive.
Yeah.
Back and forth. Aragorn forced to use his Dunedain bow, but he misses. Again, that's pretty rare too. He's accurate with that thing. The red axe fails to engage. Back and forth. Aragorn again has to use his bow. He's hanging back trying to get some shots off. He hits that time, but tink, off the dwarvish armor. We told you that's going to be a thing here. Okay. Back and forth they go. Another hit by Aragorn with the bow fails to penetrate. Interesting that he's selecting or being forced to use his bow. There, he switches back to the sword. Tink, off the dwarven armor. Dane counters. Misses. Aragorn can't engage. Dane hits! No damage. He tossed a hatchet that time in an unfavorable situation. Didn't do any damage to the ranger. Aragorn counters. Hits! Wounds! How bad? Decapitation!
Whoa!
And Aragorn with a death stroke wins instantly. Okay. That was good until it was no longer good.
Those elven blades.
They do some damage, don't they?
Yeah.
Back and forth, wily, dodge, slight wound, and then decapitation. Andúril for the win. Gotta love it.
I don't want peace. I want
Funny, 'cause
problems
it was Eomer who
always.
said, I would cut off your head, dwarf. But
Wait, say that one more time. I was showing a joke clip.
oh, it was Eomer. Eomer was the one that was like, I would cut off your head, dwarf, if it stood but a little higher from the ground, right?
Yeah.
But there it was Aragorn who did it.
Yep. He
But
found
yeah,
that.
he was like, I'm getting sick of this armor. I'm just gonna go for the one weak spot.
Exactly. In this, no dilly-dallying. Who we got next? Let's check out the bracket right quick. We've got... All right, so Aragorn will advance to fight Sauron in the Sweet 16. Love it. Next fight, Elrond against Landroval. Great Eagle versus Great Half-Elven Lord. Interesting one. Initial thoughts on this one, Chucky?
I think Elrond will handle it, but you never know with these Eagles. They're weird.
Yeah, Landroval is sort of like... well, I mean, you can imagine exactly what he's Gwaihir light, right? He's very similar stats to Gwaihir, and Gwaihir himself is a little bit like Thorondor light. They're all Eagles in general, just offensive tanks, right? But they don't have very much defensive prowess except for dodging melee attacks, right? Because they fly, so they're super elusive. The most elusive characters in the game. They're difficult to engage in melee. So ranged characters will have the best shot typically. Although in the first round, we saw a pretty close fight. Gwaihir against Treebeard. Excuse me. The other brother against the other brother. That Light Int, what's his name? Quickbeam. Took out Gwaihir in one death stroke like we just saw with Aragorn, right? So if you can catch the eagle when he's swooping down at you and smash him, that's another way to go, right? But generally speaking, and I should be sharing stats as I talk about all this. Sorry, we're still looking at brackets, but yeah, I was talking about Landroval, which who is where? Loust. All right, well. I don't know what's happening to my images here, guys. Apologies. Bear with me. All right. Do we have Elrond somewhere? We need Elrond. All right. Landroval. Yeah, so as I was saying, offensive tank, not so hot on defense, right? Just as you would imagine, right? Except for the elusiveness being 92, some of the best elusiveness in the game. Very hard to engage this guy. And you have to, as you'll remember from the battle flow, you have to engage someone in order to hit them or to strike them. You have to just follow the pink arrows there in the middle of the screen, right? You have to strike them to wound. You have to wound them to see how much damage you're going to inflict. So that's what the algorithm is doing behind the scenes in the battle engine. And so it sets up Eagles to be sort of just offensively inclined, not so hot on defense. So I've almost got this one queued up in the battle engine. Any more thoughts on Landroval versus Elrond? Elrond is an interesting character. I'll show you in a minute here. This is great television as I try to cue the battle engine and you guys don't have anything to look at or listen to. But, okay, there. Technical difficulties behind us. Yeah, so Elrond, a little bit of an interesting character, just in the sense that I would say he's fairly balanced. He has an elven blade, but he also has the ring, Vilja, right? So look at his ranged attack. 78 and 78. It's a magical range attack, right? He's probably best suited to stay at range, try not to engage, try not to be engaged, and try to, spell cast with the Elven Ring. Use the Elven Ring against the Eagle and not get hit, right? First of all, Elrond, a bit of a heavy hitter here, better than last year. 37 and 15 with victories against Sauron, Glorfindel, Radagast, and Smaug. All heavy hitters. Not really no bad losses. His worst loss is Bard, right? Who maybe got a lucky arrow off. The rest of those are quality competition.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, I think it's Elrond here.
Yeah, hard to argue. I mean, Elf Lord again really did well in the regular season. Don't think he got lucky too many of those times because, again, sometimes you're forced to use your lesser attack. It can go up to about 25% of the battle, and again, that's randomized. It depends on what we call battlefield conditions, um, and those vary from fight to fight. So your battlefield conditions are going to vary. Um, Simulated battlefield to simulated battlefield. I know that was a question we got last year from a viewer, and the answer is again, it's kind of random. But what it can do is on certain battlefields, you can imagine it how you want, but maybe they fight in a forest, right, where you have cover, and you got to rely more on engaging in melee because dudes can hide behind trees, right? So one way or another, depending on battlefield circumstances, you will be forced every character will be forced to use his lesser weapon, right? A ranged weapon. And for dudes like Boromir, his ranged weapon is the Horn of Gondor. It's a blast attack, it's a intimidation attack, call for help attack. But we open up the possibility that, fate is on his side, right? And when he blows that Horn of Gondor, magical sort of fate-inspired things happen. His brother Faramir hears him from Athelion, for example, or he hears him in a dream and it seems supernatural, right? Point being, weird things can happen with those range attacks, even though, you wouldn't picture the Horn of Gondor doing direct damage in a one-on-one fight. There is still a chance in our battle engine that, Boromir blows the Horn of Gondor and the other guy is grievously wounded by 50 points or something. What that is... What's that?
I'm saying trips over a rock because
exactly. It's our way of you remember in the minis game there was that fate stat.
Yeah,
that's kind of our way of injecting some fate into this, right? He blows the horn, the other guy trips over a rock and goes down, right? So weird crap happens in battle, man, and we try to inject elements of that however we can. That's one way.
Yeah.
But without further ado, let's see what happens in this one with the little brother of Gwaihir against the mighty Elf Lord. Shall we fight?
Okay.
Let us fight. All right, next fight of the night, we have Elrond. Oh, I did not cue this up properly. We're going to take two on this one, guys. Sorry. Chucky, you're back. We got to talk for one more minute while we queue up the proper fight. I screwed that up.
No worries.
Exit. All right, cancel that. Cool. Not Aragorn. I left him in the battle engine, but it's actually the eagle we need fighting Aragorn. Almost got it. Aragorn is going to take on Landroval. There we go. All that suspense for nothing. All right, let's try this again. Just so our markers are clean so we can edit it for YouTube. All right, we're ready. Let us fight. Take two. All right, and now a next fight of the night, we have... Dude, again? Really? Sorry. I don't know what's happening, man. This is not me. This is some kind of... All right, surely I'll get it right the third time. We're going to re-queue this. I don't know why Aragorn is staying in there, dude. This is probably user error. I'm going to own it.
Elrond scared.
Yeah, Elrond's scared. He don't want to come out. Elrond against Landroval. I swear I see it right here and it's right. Let's try this one more time. Okay, does this look right on your screen, Chucky? Are we good? I think we're good.
Yep, all good.
All right. For the third time, let us fight. All right, Elrond against Landroval. Let them fight. First attack goes to... Oh, Elrond right off the bat. Slight damage with Vilya, but the eagle only a slight wound. And now Landroval attacks. A wound! Slight scratch with the great talons of the eagle. Close match through 2 rounds. Let's see who's got it. Elrond comes back with the Elven Ring Vilya. 5 points of damage. Then Landroval cannot engage. Neither can Elrond. Back and forth they go through 7 rounds. Nothing happening. A hit there by Elrond. No damage. The eagle counters. He uses his piercing cry, but it does nothing. A wound, only slight, by the Elven Ring. Back and forth they go through 13 rounds. There's another wound by the talons of the eagle. Only slight. Oh, there's a fell wound by the Elven Ring. And in round 15, Elrond takes the lead. So he's got command of this one going into 16th. Let's see if the offensive tank that is Landroval can even the fight. Landroval swoops, cannot engage. Elrond comes back, nothing going. Back and forth they go, hitting another wound with that Elven Ring. He's staying back and using that ring, Chucky. It's probably the way to go. Don't get close to the eagle, right?
Yeah.
Exploit his weak armor. All right, can Landroval make this a fight? A hit, a wound, and that's exactly what he does. All right, so they're pretty even through 20 rounds here. Elrond attacks, nothing. Back and forth. Another wound by the eagle, only slight, 2 damage. Another wound by the Elven Ring, only 5. So still an advantage for about 20 points here going into the 25th round. Back and forth. A hit and a wound by Elrond down to the very brink of death. All right, Elrond's got him on the ropes. Last chance for Landroval. Can he pull off a miracle? He swoops, misses. Elrond counters, misses. A hit and a wound by Landroval. And on the very brink of death, the great eagle snatches victory from the edge of death. And that is why you are never out of the fight. Fight of the tournament so far?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Dude, look at that. Had him down to 2.1. Landroval swoops in and with the talons pulls the upset over Elrond. Well. Dude, great one. Great one. So that's what you get sometimes in the battle engine, ladies and gentlemen. That was a great fight and a good example also of how you are never out of the fight. We say it to close every show, right? And for a reason. In life, as in Tolkien, as in the battle engine, you are not out of the fight until you are slain and thoroughly slain. I remember in the first day, in the 64 character tournament that we did with characters through all 3 ages of Middle Earth, Luthien pulled one of those, and she was almost dead. Do you remember who she was fighting?
I do not, but I know what you're referring to. Yeah,
it was less than 1 point in her case. It was like 0.48 or something.
Yeah,
and then with her last power, she casts a spell and wins that fight. All right, guys, back to the bracket right quick. So Landroval, the 7th seed, will advance to take on the winner of Imrahil and Kirdan, our last fight of the night. So Imrahil, yeah, he's... By the way, you can check out our bracket. It's updated right after these streams every night. And you can pop up the little character cards, get their stats up, get the quick little character description. So check out the bracket tracker page of MiddleEarthMadness.com. I try to avoid these during the streams just because most folks watch on demand later on our YouTube page. So if you miss fights, again, go to our YouTube page. They're all up there, or will be right after we fight every night. Sometimes it takes me until the next morning, but they're going to be up there pretty quick, and you can catch up on all the fights that you missed that way. I won't really talk too much here on the streams about what's going on. All right, one more fight, Chucky. Let's close it out strong here. Who we got? We got an interesting
Imrahil,
one
right?
here.
Yeah.
Imrahil against
Imrahil.
Kirdan. Take it away. Say again.
I'm going for Imrahil in this one again.
Did you pick him in your bracket?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a ballsy call if you did.
Not on this one, no. I have Kirdan.
Okay. Yeah, Imrahil. So, here, let me. cue this
Sometimes
up
my
again.
rooting interest goes against who I think I'm going to win. You know?
Well, of course, yeah. You gotta pick brackets in terms of who you think will win, and not always in terms of who you want to win, right? But this
Yeah.
one. So, a couple thoughts on this one. So, first of all, let me get Kirdan's card up, and I'll show you. This dude straight up overperformed in our round robin. You know, everyone fights everyone. What we've been calling the regular season. Okay. He only lost 12 fights, this guy. Now, not that he's really a slouch by any means in the books, but he rarely fights, and it's difficult to assign stats to characters like this that really have such little combat. So a lot of gap filling, admittedly, going on by us when we assign stats. Now, all stats are assigned relative to every other character, right? So you got to keep that in mind. We compared him to every other elf in the lore. And for example, you know, you're not going to give him piercing that's better than someone like Feanor, or stamina that's better than someone like Legolas, right? At least not by much. One of the differences is though, look what's on his finger. The 3rd elven ring, which he kept for quite a while until he handed it to Gandalf after Gandalf was reincarnated after Moria, after the Balrog takes him down. So he has an elven ring, and that gives him 85 piercing and a magical attack that is pretty damn fell, you know. But also, he's more fell in melee combat than Galadriel, who we saw fight last night. And so, you know, these characters with elven rings or Elrond, hell, we just saw him fight. We just saw him lose, but he should have won. He should have won. Wait, am I getting that right? Golly, I'm all over the place. We were just looking at the bracket. I want to make sure I'm not misspeaking there.
Elrond.
So
Yeah.
Elrond just got upset, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Elven Ring, for example, didn't do him a ton of good. But my point here is just that Kirdan has another one of those, and he's just as fell in melee as Elrond, and more so than Galadriel. And he's got a little, he doesn't have great armor. He doesn't have great defense at all, except for his spirit, right? So, cool character, Kirdan, sort of underrated, you might say, in the books, although he feels to me overrated in this field as a 2 seed. But look what he did in the regular season. I mean, he slew Sauron, Gandalf, the Balrog, Smaug. You can't take it away with him. We had to make him a 2 seed, right? I'll just say, if you want to pick an upset against one of the 2 seeds, maybe you do it against this guy. I have to stay Switzerland, but I don't know. That's kind of my hunch anyway. Meanwhile, Imrahil. Now, Imrahil also interesting because he did not perform well in the regular season, and he's been pretty brutal. He's been pretty awesome in this tournament so far. Small sample size, of course. He slew Bard, but he did it without any trouble and advanced right on, in a 10-9 upset. Not much of an upset there, but very different fighting styles. An archer versus a cavalry guy who doesn't really have his horse, right? But you can see just at a glance, Imrahil slew Radagast, he slew the Watcher, Beorn, and the Olog High. So those are some stout characters there. But he only won 15 fights, and he lost to Pippin and Grishnak and Gorbag and Bilbo. So maybe what I just said won't be true for another round. But I do think Círdan, I don't know, just 40-12. Can I take anything away from him? No, but does that feel a little bit lucky to me? Yes. What say you, Chuggy?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about it. Sorry, I'm struggling with the hiccups, so forgive me. But, anyways, the thing about the Elven Ring is true. I feel like Imrahil just has the stronger armor. It's one of those again.
He does.
Maybe someone with a stronger overall power versus somebody with very strong armor. So,
yep. Yep. All right. Well, let's see what the battle engine says about it, and then we shall fight and find out once and for all. Battle engine says, okay, so green line, Círdan, blue line, Imrahil. Couple of advantages you can point to for Imrahil. That'd be Valor, Ferocity. Again, Valor is 1/3 of your overall damage phase, and does it mean that Imrahil is braver than Círdan brass tacks? No, it just means in the lore, Círdan was always way more reserved. Even going back to the First Age, and this guy goes way back, right? He's one of the Falathrim, one of the Teleri elves in the First Age, right? So he's been around a long, long time. But in every battle and every war, he's always the guy hanging out by the water, doing some, marine attacks. And those are underrated, by the way. I'm hoping they'll add those to the Amazon show. But we'll see. But in any case, in the lore, he did some coastal raids, which were cool, like kind of special ops, Navy SEALs missions with boats up the rivers and stuff like that. But he's always very reserved, so his valor rating isn't what Imrahil's is. His ferocity isn't he's not as ferocious as, a cavalry lord. And as Chucky pointed out, his armor's not as good, and his deflection's not as good. But you're looking at advantages across the board otherwise for Círdan here. Looks like characters will use their preferred weapon 88% of the time on this one, which means for Círdan, that's his Elven Ring Nadia. And for Imrahil, that's his Lance of Dol Amroth. So without further ado, I say we fight.
No.
In the last fight of the second round, we have what shapes up to be a potential upset. Imrahil against Círdan. Let us fight. First attack goes to Círdan with Nadia. He misses. Imrahil counters. Ooh. Oh, sorry. He strikes there. Oh, he engages but can't hit. Sorry. The fight continues. Now that my mouse works again. So we've got... Ooh, a hit and a wound by Círdan. A fell stroke! And it's a beatdown in 3 rounds by Círdan. Wah, wah.
Wow. Well.
Damn.
Those Elven Blades doing work tonight with Aragorn and Círdan.
Well, I guess he uses Elven Ring Nadia that one, so spellcasting
Oh, yeah.
Fire Ring and burnt the crap out of the knight, roasted him in his own armor. Damn. Gum. Okay, so we are very chalky here, ladies and gents. Which, again, more boring for these rounds. That's the disadvantage. But more better for the later rounds, I would argue, right? Like we were talking about in basketball. This is about to set up, Kirdan against Elrond. Elf on elf violence. Good fight. And Sauron against Aragorn.
Oof. I do remember picking that one in my bracket, so I'm excited for that match.
Yeah, you've got Aragorn over Sauron, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Love that. Love that. And I can see it happening, man. It's not a bad pick. It's a good pick. Drop in the comments, guys, how your brackets are doing. I'm not going to show them on the leaderboard here, or at least not yet. We'll probably do that in the Sweet 16. Long way to go, and the further we go, the more points are involved, right? Each win that you call is more valuable the deeper we get. But we'll start checking on our brackets in real time here. It's one of the fun things we can do once we get into the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, go to MiddleEarthMadness.com. We have built a fell website for you, the only part of which we have shown you tonight, mostly just the bracket page. But go to the character page, check out your favorite characters, see all the battle stats. You can pull up their battle cards that we've been showing you for character. Not so deep on the lore. If you want more of Lordor, we will take you to Lordor. Worry not. But the way you got to get to Lordor is to tune into these streams or watch them on YouTube, or best of all, subscribe. And for the mere price of $3.79 per month, you get a newsletter. And in the newsletter, we go deep. We go deep in lore, but selectively, right? For example, we went deep on Helm Hammerhand and the lore of the War of the Rohirrim. You might have seen the movie. Really good movie. And we point out some, not to criticize the movie. The movie was solid, actually. It was way better than I thought in terms of the lore. But that's just one example of things we go deep on in the newsletter. You can subscribe now if you want, and you get the February and March and upcoming April edition all included. Plus, you get free entries into each tournament that we do throughout the year. Next tournament's going to be June timeframe, so that'll be a summer one. We'll do a fall one, and then we'll end the year around Yule Festival with another one. And we have a bonus tournament that's not Lord of the Rings related, so we're going to be mixing things up at some point with some bonus content just to throw out there as a bonus for you guys. But subscribe. It helps us build these future products for you guys. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Chucky, final thoughts before we log out for the evening? Pretty cool second round, right?
Yeah, those are some fun ones. I'm really excited for the Aragorn Sauron match, and Elrond Círdan should be fun too.
Yep, agreed. Pretty chalky out there. We have, I think Gimli is a 7 seed, is the highest seed remaining. Nope, Frodo is a 9. Again, don't want to spoil this too much for folks that haven't gotten a chance to watch these fights yet. We do have a 9 seed and a 7 seed still alive, but other than that, I'm looking at a lot of 4, 3s, 2s, and 1s. All of our 1s are still alive. Excuse me. Wait. Yes, all of our 1s are still alive. A couple of 2 seeds have gone down.
Yeah.
So, yep, all good. And yeah, we'll get back to this leaderboard next time. So with that, Chucky, heal fast, my friend. Hope you feel better, man. Seriously.
Thanks.
And thanks everyone else for tuning in, or if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube. Appreciate you. Make sure you follow us on all your favorite socials. We're on all of them. How active are we on them? Probably not as active as we should be. That's mostly my fault because I suck at that. But we'll try to keep pushing our content out as best we can, time allowing. I still think your best source, if you want more of all this, MiddleEarthMadness.com. And with that, as Professor Tolkien said, you cannot come to the morning light except through the shadow. And where there is light, there is always hope. You are never out of the fight. And we'll see you next time.